1031 WRNR. Good morning, it's Rob, and joining us once again is our favorite Maryland Senator, Senator Sarah Elfreth. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming back. We want to talk about voting because it's on everybody's mind, and they want to make sure that they do it right and that they get counted. And actually, I've had some friends who have posed some questions framed around the idea of, we're expecting much more absentee and mail-in balloting across the country this year than we've probably ever seen before. And some people have posed the question of, okay, I have a number of different ways I can vote.
Right.
I'd like to do it in a way that makes it easier for the vote counters so they're not trying to pass this big giant egg in one night. And the question came up, if you vote by a mail-in ballot or a mail-in ballot that's then dropped off at one of the designated drop boxes, is that helpful or do they have to wait until election night to count your ballot?
Incredibly helpful. We kind of equated to the bending of the curve as we talked about with
flattening
the curve. Right. So over, I think the last count was 1.2 million Marylanders have requested a mail-in ballot so far. Mm-hmm. And that goes up every single day, obviously. And a million of those ballots have already been sent out. So it's easiest for you, it's most convenient for your local state board of elections, so here in Anne Arundel, to get that in as early as possible. They actually start counting this week.
Really?
So we are the earliest state in the nation to start counting because we want to flatten that curve to make sure they're not counting potentially 1 point whatever million ballots on election day. So of course the results will be sequestered until election night, but it's very helpful to our Board of Elections that we get those ballots in early.
That's good to know. And I know that, even the first day that they opened the drop boxes, we had over 5,000 people vote in the county.
Yeah. And can I just say on the drop boxes, because they're available as of last Thursday, our closest are Pitt Moyer here in Annapolis, and then South River High School in Edgewater.
Okay, and if you go onto the county website, there's literally dozens of these drop boxes, and it's super convenient. It's not like Texas, where they just decided you can have one drop box per county.
We're doing well. We're going to get even more on October the 17th. But I'll tell you, we're planning for people to do this at the last minute. So I chair the regulatory committee in the Senate, and we brought in the State Board of Elections on Friday to talk to us about what happens if you're in line in your car on election night at 8 p.m. to drop off your ballot. Because as everybody knows, if you're in line physically to vote by 8 p.m., you have a legal right to vote when you're in, right? So they are thinking about that too. So we're even planning for these long lines of cars
at drop
boxes, but that's why extra encouragement to please get those in early.
Okay. Now, another question. If for some reason I get that mail-in ballot and change my mind and say, I don't want to mail it in, I don't want to use a drop box, I want to go vote in person. You can do that too.
Absolutely, yes. So you can do that, but your in-person ballot will be a provisional ballot until the Board of Elections is certain that you did not also return your mail-in ballot.
Right.
Now, also a new thing this year, if you had returned your mail-in ballot and you seek to vote in person, your mail-in ballot might have already been counted since we're counting early, but your in-person ballot would be voided. The Board of Elections is going to work with you to make sure that was just a simple error, a mistake. It was not an attempt at voter fraud, but if it was an attempt at voter fraud, they're going to report you to the state prosecutor.
Well, and good.
Right. We should not be trying intentionally to vote twice.
But, in thinking about that then, and in thinking about, uncomplicating the process for everybody involved, maybe don't do that.
Make a plan right now, today, in October, and stick with it.
Yeah,
right, absolutely.
All right. The idea of voter fraud and people voting twice has been put out there, arguably for reasons I won't get into. Okay, voter suppression. So if somebody does vote twice, how does that actually get handled?
So it's handled, it depends on if you've already returned your mail-in ballot, and that's just because we started what's called canvassing so early that once it's counted, it can't be uncounted.
Right.
So if your mail-in ballot, say you wanted to do your mail-in ballot early, and then on election day you wanted to go and vote, you'd be voting provisional. They would see that error right away because they're all connected to each other. You'd be flagged at the polling place. You would still be able, because this is a wonderful place, to request a provisional ballot because we don't want to disenfranchise anybody. Most of the time that happens when someone's like a junior or a senior and there's confusion between people with similar names. But if it does happen, again, Board of Elections, is probably going to report you to the state prosecutor. But it's important to note, Rob, there was not a single case of voter fraud that was found in the primary this year. And they're looking. And again, that was the most mail-in we've ever had.
It's not for want of not looking.
Right. Yeah. Oh, no, they are intentionally, making sure that there's integrity in this election. But it's really not a thing here in Maryland.
And then there was a question about something that I wasn't even aware of, actually, which is getting your ballot via email. Yeah. And this is kind of a mess.
A little bit of a mess, yeah. And so this was one of those things that was very well intentioned when we passed the law. I should have looked it up before I got here, but I think maybe 10 years ago about accessibility.
So it wasn't on your watch.
It was not on my watch, but I was elected in 2018. But it was all about making it more convenient for people to vote. So
Right.
we have this provision that you can request your ballot via email, print it out, and mail it back. The challenge therein is that ballot is not scannable. So it has to be transposed by a poll worker. Now, it's a team of a bipartisan team of 2 people who are doing that. So
Right.
there's integrity in that process. But it does
But
require...
they're sitting there and physically copying it by hand from what you sent them onto a regular ballot.
An extra step of work for them to do.
So again, not flattening the curve.
You're adding to the curve in that case. And that's okay. So if you...
Right. I mean, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do.
I understand it. We couldn't... That's one of those things, the General Assembly, I can't sit here and say we're going to suspend a state law. That's in the governor's hands entirely, not in mine. So if you are one of those people that requested an email ballot and you are second guessing it, that's okay. Request a mail-in ballot. Your email ballot will be voided. So it has a tracking number that will be voided immediately, and you'll receive a new mail-in ballot that you can fill out and you can drop in a Dropbox, or you can do it in person too. So there's a couple ways here to flatten that curve and to make it, easier on the lives of the Board of Elections.
Right.
They are very stressed out right now. They're expecting an 85% turnout.
Which is awesome.
It's
and
awesome.
I wish it was that way every time.
Good problem to have, but we want to make their lives as easy as possible.
All right. Senator Sarah Elfreth, thank you so much for the info. If you need more info on where to vote, how to register, you can still do that until the 13th. Go to aacounty.org/vote. Senator Elfreth, thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you so much for having me.